Good afternoon. It is April 15th. It's tax day, and it is another great day to be at the Speakers Collaborative Studio session. We're learning today about AI and about human-powered AI. And I'm so excited for our next guest, Theresa Fesinstine. She's going to tell me how to say her name when I bring her up here. All right, Theresa, how do we say your last name?
You actually are one of the rare ones that got it right. It is Fesinstine.
Nice.
Yeah. I usually have to offer people money to just say Theresa.
So okay.
Well, my last name.
Well, we'll stick with Theresa. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. First of all, Cody, thank you so much for inviting me here today. I love the show. I love watching and learning from other tremendous speakers. I always take something interesting away, so it's really an honor to be here today. My name is Theresa Fesinstine. After over 25 years in the field of human resources, I took the leap over into AI education and training. I actually have been doing this since December 5th of 2022. About 5 days after ChatGPT launched, I jumped in very quickly and realized that there was going to be a tremendous opportunity to harken back to my early career days in learning and development, where I had the opportunity to work for some pretty amazing companies doing that. So that's kind of what got me to where I am today with People Power AI.
Wow. I love that. So tell me, I'm getting an echo for myself. Tell me while I fix that, what is the purpose of People Power AI? What is your vision?
Yeah. So for me, after spending so long in human resources myself, and then learning about the capabilities of some of these AI tools that I started experimenting with back in 22, 23, I think that the thing that struck me the most was a worry. And that worry was not necessarily about the AI, but it was actually about human resource teams that spend so much of their emotional time, energy, and work to support organizations being left behind when AI started to make more of a standing presence within our organizations. And so I formed People Power AI really with a mission to flatten the learning curve for HR leaders and their teams. And it's really a passion project and a mission of my own, being so connected with the HR and people operations community. The leaders that put their heart on the line to help support organizations and helping them understand that these tools are in addition to what we do and help us do it a little bit faster, a little bit more efficiently, and with much greater insight than we were able to do before. And then also certainly core to my own belief is making sure that we talk about how we do that responsibly. And in fact, I just finished, and tomorrow it should be available up on Amazon. I just finished my first book on AI called People Powered by AI, a playbook for HR leaders ready to shape the new world of work. So I really am honed in on practical ways to utilize AI.
So is it safe to assume that you are in the camp that AI won't replace people, but it will give them the tools to be not replaceable, but learn AI, or you will be replaced by somebody who does know AI?
So it's interesting you bring that up. That's probably my least favorite expression when it comes to AI. I'm in the camp that both and. I like an old improv person, both and. It is going to take jobs. There's a reality there that we have to face. Because in fact, there used to be a job called a computer, and now there is a computer to take that function. I think the reality is that we do need to look at it through clear lenses. There are jobs that will be eliminated as a result of AI. But I think the important thing to recognize, especially for HR teams and leaders, is this: we have a runway ahead of us right now. If we were able to predict the future, and we sort of can say that there are jobs that are going to be significantly impacted, others that will be mildly impacted, and some that may not be impacted at all. But for those that are going to be certainly impacted, we have the runway to look at ways to upskill, new skill, and reskill those individuals so that they can become and maintain and continue to be an important part of the business and the operations of any business. On the side of the, AI, if you don't learn AI, someone who knows AI, I really lean into the potential of AI versus the fear. And I have done since I started this work, this idea of learn it because you have to be afraid for your job is really not an approach that I tend to take. I tend to take learn it because there's so much application in the way that HR and every team out there can leverage these tools just to make our jobs and the insights that we need in order to make the best business decisions a little bit easier.
It makes life so much more efficient when you use AI as a resource rather than a competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it should be viewed that way. I mean, um, shaving off hours to do something that took so long just because it was manual in process shouldn't bring fear. It should bring adulation and excitement, as long as the data is sound and we're able to work through the tools as we know their weaknesses, such as bias and things like that. If we are aware and we understand how to leverage them the right way, they can be really, really constructive for us.
Yeah, that's really great. So, the Speakers Collaborative, we actually use quite a bit of AI in our production, but that's not what I was bringing that up for. We love giving our guests the spotlight and giving you an opportunity to talk about yourself and to talk to your audience. So I'm going to go off camera for a little while and let you talk to your people, and probably going to pop back on and ask some questions here in a minute. But if you'll just take the mic for a little while and talk to us, it'd be great to hear from you.
Cody, thank you so much. Yeah, there's no pressure like soul camera pressure. Well, I'm so thankful for being here. One of the things I thought would be interesting to talk about, because I've been getting more and more questions about it, really over the past 6 months or so, is these questions around having a career pivot and what that's looked like for me and what brought me to this space. Speaking directly to my audience of HR leaders, having been in this space over the past 5 years, I understand how challenging and difficult a lot of the work has been. For HR leaders, we get more and more roles, responsibilities put on our plate, not often with the accompanying support and resource. And so we've got to try to navigate and figure out, how do we provide A-class service when we have the resources for much less. And I think that's one of the reasons that this pivot for me became so mission critical. I really found myself feeling compelled to help HR leaders and their teams understand and support this work. And that required me to really take a look back at the work that I was doing and the work that I wanted to do. I started in a world where we ended up, I started at a company and stayed there for 15 years. My husband is a long-term employee of his company. I come from a long line of stayers when it comes to work. And so this idea of pivoting into something else really created some fear for me. But I think what started to ground me was the community around me. I am really blessed to be a part of a few different communities where, leaders, whether they're entrepreneurial leaders, accountability leaders, HR leaders, people focused on building a better world of work, are gathering to help one another. And so when I started to think about this idea of creating this career pivot, that's where I turned, asking questions, seeking guidance. What were the things that would be helpful? And when I was doing this back in 22 around AI, not a lot of people were thinking about AI. I use this analogy of the beach to describe the way I've seen the adoption of AI start to change. And in 2022, everybody was in the seagrass. 2023, some of us started trickling down onto the beach and into the water. 2024, for a lot of people, a lot more people were starting to approach. And now we're in 25, where the tools are getting more powerful. The capabilities are getting just mind-blowing, things that 2 years ago we never would have imagined. And so that initial outreach really helped solidify my own decision to focus on this pivot and to provide this service and this offering that I hadn't done in many, many years. I mentioned that I started my career in learning and development. And so circling back to this as an educator, both for corporations, communities, keynote performances or opportunities, as well as I'm now an instructor and adjunct professor at CUNY, teaching AI in business and HR management, became this sort of compilation of the best of what L&D was, while offering something that I thought could be of true value and needed in my own HR community. And so that is this internal motivation I found when I was deciding to take this pivot. So long story short, I think this idea of what does your future look like if you are considering a career pivot? Number one, seek to outreach those people that are in your community that you feel like could give you a, honest, objective response. My husband isn't the guy to talk to if I want to, get support necessarily. He's super supportive, but he's not going to give me sometimes the risk as well as the reward. So find those people that'll give you the straight talk on what you should be looking at and what that change might look like for you. Explore people that are doing what you want to do. So for example, right now I have a program that I just launched because I've had a few people reach out that are looking to make their own pivot and from the HR world into the AI world. So I've built a whole learning program to help those people do it. Look, the future is going to be rife with opportunities for people because we are all in the world of learning how AI can change the way we work with one another, the way our organizations consume and adopt insights, and the way we work with those insights to build better connection within our organizations. And so I've started this new program, which is really exciting, and I think that's a part of what sort of taken a divergence here. When we all had to learn a lot of new adoption methodologies and adaptation methodologies through COVID. And I think that's one of the things that I hope more people have learned as we go through the next 4 or 5 years of change, is that the more adaptive we can be to technological change, environmental change, governmental change, the more grounded we can find ourselves even as we pivot and make shifts that we need to in order to be kind of support ourselves within the work that we want to do. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you, Cody. That was wonderful.
I love it. I also don't like this layout, so I'm going to do this. There we go. That was great. I learned a lot, but the whole time I was thinking, wait, she's got a book coming out tomorrow. We need to know about this book. I
do.
Tell us.
I will. I'm so excited. So as I said, I wrote People Powered by AI as really an opportunity to connect with people that may not be in the spaces where I am talking. I've listened to and attended a lot of conversation around AI for leaders, AI for HR. And I'll be really honest, I think most of those sessions are not focused on the practical utilization of AI. They're focused on the potential and the concepts and the theory, but they don't really dig into like, here's how you use it as an HR leader or within your organization. And so, I thought about those folks that are in places that I couldn't get to, and I tried to figure out the best possible way that I could do it. And going back to, again, my roots of content development through learning and development coursework, I decided to write a playbook. It's not huge. It's about 200 pages, and it really takes each phase of AI. So the first section is really about grounding and understanding. The second section is how AI can be used in different functionalities within HR and within our organizations. The third really goes into ethics and some of that thought process that we need to put in place and the future of what AI is going to bring and what our organizations are going to look like with things like, agentic AI and AGI. And so there's a lot of depth to it in kind of what I tried to build, sort of a playbook style where there's a lot of exercises and questions. And, I envision it as something that a really sharp HR leader could take and distribute to their team, and they could do it have a conversation on a weekly basis about takeaways, really practical. And it's really done in concert with my website that's going to be finalized. I have one right now, but we're reworking it so that there are really actionable tools that you could go in. The exercises will be there, workbooks will be there. And so again, it really is purposeful as a repository for, okay, I really want to do this. I'm tired of attending the 1-hour workshops where I just hear things and don't actually take action. This is a book that's going to help you take action. It's People Powered by AI. And it is, Hopefully on Amazon starting tomorrow, April 16th.
So, are you anticipating that you'll have to update this book quite often? AI changes daily.
It does. And you know what I didn't do was include a lot of specific tools, a lot of time-based specific elements, but I do reference my website a lot. So the idea is not that like I'm going to come out with like a annual version or quarterly version or anything like that. My goal is to have something that really could stand the test of time for at least a period, because it is this took me 8 months to write. If I was doing the second one for next year, it'd already be started. So I really want it to be a grounding resource and then provide other resources, either myself or through this amazing network of people I started to cultivate around AI knowledge development, engineers, scientists that are really doing some of the heavy lifting. So I'd love to be able to refer people out to those folks that are doing some of that work.
Okay. What do you think? Like a 500-page book? What is this? Is it going to take me forever to read?
Oh, it's literally 200 pages.
Nice.
It won't take you forever to read. I started out calling it my like my mini book, like a little mini book. I just wanted something that was like larger than a workbook, but smaller than like a tome. Like I didn't want it to be all about like AI. There's enough out there. This is very curated to the situations that HR leaders will be in, the processes that we oversee, how we communicate this within a larger organization, how do we get our organization involved? Because one of the things I'm finding most often is that there are, no matter where you think you are, and a lot of teams feel like they're behind the 8 ball, they're not. So many companies are still trying to figure this out. What do we say to our employees? How much do we allow? And so I think this book, it has some pieces in it that will help, at least, if not answer those questions, give you the conversational prompts with your executive team or with your leadership team to figure out how do we want to navigate this together. But most certainly, one of the core things you'll read is that I obviously believe HR should be heavily involved in that cascade of communication and the adoption. And in a lot of cases right now, they're sort of being, what's the word I would use? They're being informed, but not involved. And so my goal would be to help them become more involved through language, vernacular understanding, and to gain that credibility that perhaps right now they don't have.
Well, I mean, they need to get on it or they're going to get left behind, right?
Well, they need to get on it because there are so many valuable capabilities and ways that it can change the way they work. I call it kind of kicking the rocks out of our shoes. Certain team functions have a tendency to just walk around with more and more rocks in our shoes, and we just never kick them out. I've never been a fan of like, this is so hard. I've always been a fan of, this is hard, this sucks, let's make it better.
Yeah. So tell me what a client relationship looks like for you.
Yeah, so I have a few different ways that I work with clients. A lot of my clients come to me first off for education. So that is predominantly what I do, whether it's I do some interesting series of workshops. I've worked for some pretty wonderful companies, Bezos Academy, Mazda, Audible, and I've had the opportunity to support them through workshops and getting their HR teams up and involved. Everything from a 90-minute workshop to a 3-workshop series where we start off with really, let's get an established baseline across everybody in our organization or in our team. And then we do everything from like, let's do a classic lab where everybody's got their computers out for 2 hours, really working in different tools, to like, here, we're going to do a hackathon, take our 2025 objectives for the year and literally come out with action plans and communication strategies complete before we walk out the door in a 3-hour time frame. Things that used to take weeks and weeks to sort of organize, get our thoughts together. Those companies that are taking the time to really invest in what a AI forward organization looks like, that's some of the work I do. Then I work with other teams where maybe they're a smaller team and we are just working more in a sort of a consulting capacity to help them not only with the education, but also with assessing adoption. So what is their readiness as an organization? What does their data look like? Are we building? Are we purchasing? If we're purchasing, what do we already have? And then how do we figure out what would fit well within that stack? for those tools that don't already have something that would be, a real cherry picked easy win if we could get this done faster and quicker. And then some companies keep me on as just like a resident AI expert. I maybe do 2 hours a month where it's just I give exercises or Friday sessions where they're working on AI in a fun way, where that leader. I'm so sorry, I lost you.
Now we're here.
Okay.
We got you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, something popped up on my computer. Probably my taxes, to be honest with you. And I was just saying.
Tax day.
Yeah, exactly. So just like companies that don't have the time to put together a whole effort to be people first, AI forward. So I offer them opportunities, just like here's a workbook, here's something an exercise you can take your team through. Again, it's all about what does that team need in order to push the learning forward and do it in a curated way versus a like kind of everybody get out there and just try what you want and then share it in a team meeting, which, I could go on a whole other conversation about the misses when we just like let everybody explore without any idea of what the heck they're doing.
Definitely. All right. So you don't do AI 24/7. You don't do people power 24/7, I hope.
Do I not?
Okay, maybe you do.
No, I don't. I don't. I also have a family, a dog, and hobbies.
Yeah. So tell us what Theresa looks like when she's not people power AIing.
Yeah. Well, I probably the thing I enjoy most, and this is going to get a lot of uhs, but like I really just enjoy spending time with my husband, my dog. We have a almost 3-year-old mini Bernedoodle, Hazel, who's an absolute, sweetheart for about 10% of the day. And then the other 90%, she's a maniac. I love to cook. I actually went to culinary school in 2015, as I call it my first midlife crisis. So that's like kind of if you really knew me, you'd know that I am actually a trained chef and can whip up some pretty amazing food when I feel the intention. I also like just for downtime, I love to create. So for example, I'm working on a new sculptural concept around bullying, and it's sort of an interactive, immersive exercise to help people release some of their own experiences with bullying. And so I have kind of passion project around that. I do a lot of different things. I love to read. I love to really just, and then I'm also a big fan of a good like trash television watch binge. I've got no problem with saying that, sometimes Love Island is where it's at.
Well, I've never watched Love Island, but I know how you feel.
That's okay.
So you're a big reader. One of my questions is often, what are you reading?
Yeah. So one of the books that I finished and am reading again is it's by a wonderful female author named Shauna Hawking, and it's called One Bold Move a Day. And little story behind that, I heard her speak on a podcast on January 2nd, 2024. And at the end of 2023, it was sort of my first 9-10 months really dug into people power AI. And I think even in 23, I was still just a little early and really started at the end of the year having sort of a crisis of direction and like, is this the right thing? This doesn't feel like it's hitting. And I really was struggling. And my husband, who is my biggest cheerleader, literally was like, no, keep going. You're onto something. Just give it time. And so that was on like January 1st. On January 2nd, I listened to this podcast with Shauna talking, and I made a commitment that I was just going to do one bold move every single day in 2024. And I started tracking them and keeping note of them. And I mean, so many amazing things happened for me last year in terms of getting out of my own way and not worrying about what the outcome was going to be, but doing it because I felt compelled to do it. So that's how I got the opportunity to become an adjunct teacher at City College of New York, which I'm so proud of. That's how I have the opportunity to speak on some really wonderful stages, to talk to some people that I know that I made an impact on the way that they view their work. And so that is a book that I really love. And then Noel Russell, she just came out last week. So we're going to do a little book swap, but she came out with a book, Scaling Responsible AI.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm very excited to, just came out. So I'm very excited to like dig in, and she's just a total authority in the world of AI. And I really admire her work. So I'll be, consuming that over the next few weekends for sure.
How fun.
How about you? What books have you read recently that you
Oh,
loving?
I asked you earlier about the length of your book. My challenge is that I always am fascinated by the books that are this big, 304 or 500 pages. Like I'm looking at a couple right now.
Are they business books or are they for
No,
pleasure?
well, these two are actually medical books.
Oh, wow.
One of is Ripples of Change by Todd Otten. He's a doctor out of Minnesota or Michigan, and it's about changing the dynamic for providers so that doctors don't burn out, and really changing the way that practice works. The other one is Outlive by Peter Attia. Last year I started on this journey to have a health span, not just live,
Yeah.
till I was 100. So I've got several people in my family who died at or after 100, and I want to be one of them. And so they're both great books, but they're books that I have to read like one chapter, put it down, pick up something else that's kind of trashy or something that's mindless, and then come back to them. On the not trashy level, right now I'm reading a book by a guy named Brant Hansen. It's called The Men We Need, and it's about it's written to men from a man about not necessarily being the stereotypical macho outdoorsy sports guy provider, but being a tender of the garden, and that's really the men that society needs right now. So I'm 25 pages into that one, and so far it's been really good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, Theresa, where do we find you?
Oh my goodness. You know what? Where if I'm being candid, I could send you to my website, People Power AI. But really, if you really want to get in touch and chat, I'm on LinkedIn all the time under Theresa Fesinstine. You can find me there. I do a lot of videos and updates, and I have a newsletter, and I really try everything I can to support continuing the education and using that as my platform for sharing. Yeah. I'd love to connect with any of your audience members. Happy to invite them. I have a monthly event that I run called my AI Quick Clinic, and it is free. It is 45 minutes. And actually, if you'll give me 2 seconds, I'll find the link and share. I don't know how I can share it. Can I share it in a chat?
We can just put it in the chat on LinkedIn.
Okay.
It'll be in there. Yeah.
Perfect.
Is there anything I haven't asked you?
I don't think there is anything that you haven't asked me at all. I'm going to put this in the chat with the studio, and then maybe if you want to send that out. So just for context, the quick clinics are not a lot of fuzz and fluff. They are 5 minutes of a new tool, 10 minutes of an interview, and 15 minutes to try something yourself. And so it's very focused, directed, about learning and experiencing practically. And I've had a fantastic time. I really appreciate the conversation. I love the fact that you create this space for people that are speakers to kind of come to the front of the row, if you will. Speaking is so freaking rewarding. There's nothing like a group of people that are really engaged with what you're talking about. And I feel so lucky that growing up as an incredibly shy, bullied kid, that's somewhere in this lifespan of 50 years I've had. When I was in my 20s, I had a great mentor who really pushed me to the front of the room to do learning and development, even though I was so nervous and I could not understand why she would think this was a good role for me. And it was just everything I needed, and have been such a fan of any people who are facilitators, strong motivators, speakers. So thank you so much for creating the space for this.
What a gift. What a gift that was that she gave you. All right. Last word. What is your bold move today?
My bold move today is getting this damn book out and into the world. It's only been 8 months, and it's like a baby. It's almost 9 months in the making. So
awesome.
It is my baby.
Awesome. Well, Theresa Fesinstine, thank you for joining us today. Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so much,
sharing your
Cody.
wisdom. Thank you for signing up to be in the studio with us. Everybody else, we will see you next Tuesday. We've got a fantastic guest. And Theresa, thank you again. If you want more information, go to thespeakerscollaborative.com or check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and whatever other social media we happen to live on at the time. And with that, I'm going to tell everybody goodbye.